I want to start. This is your healthier story. We always love the stories that got you into this. So 50 years ago, you're making a decision. Why'd you go into biological naturopathic medicine?
Probably the main reason was is that, I met my wife when I was in dental school, and that's 55 years ago. She was in dental hygiene, and she, at the time, had mononucleosis. And,
Mm.
we've been married for 52 years, and those first 8, 10 years, it seemed that she had one health problem after the other. And, back in the 1970s, all there was, I thought, was basically the idea of conventional model, the conventional medicine that was going on. So, it's like, and then at some point, it was actually December the 7th or 8th, 1979. After seeing many, many physicians, the doctors finally said, "Well, there's nothing wrong with you," because in those days, if you didn't see something on a blood test or a picture, oh, there's must be all mental. They referred her to a mental hospital where I was living in Canada at the time. And, just before she canceled it, said, "I don't want to be in mental hospital over Christmas." I canceled it. And so lo and behold, before the new appointment was made, we ran into somebody said, "Well, why don't you look at an alternative?" Well, what's an alternative? Well, there are other approaches to health other than just the conventional model of, treat your symptoms, take this medication. That started the journey. And so, and that basically put me on a path of looking at other systems of healing. I met a physician in Portland, Oregon, even though I was living in Canada, who said there are definitely other approaches that are important for you to approach. I went to the library back in the day where I was living, and if it said health or healing or anything like that, I said, "Oh, I'll read that," in general. So, and lo and behold, whether I read about Ayurveda, homeopathy, uh, Chinese medicine, Western medicine, they all said the same thing. You got to live healthy to be healthy. You got to look at what you eat. You got to move your body every day. You got to sleep properly. You have to balance your mental, emotional aspects of things. You have to learn how to be happy in challenging situations, etc. That put me on a path. I was practicing dentistry, of course, at the time. And, lo and behold, in the reading, it says this silver amalgam stuff, we're putting poison in people's teeth. So I probably, in the area where I lived, was the very first person in the 1970s to say, "I stopped putting amalgams in people's teeth." And then I was the president of the association, and I spoke at a major convention and said, "We're making a huge mistake doing this." I subsequently lost my license because I was
Mm.
speaking outside the norm, because it was not popular in the 1970s to tell people that amalgams were not healthy for people. So anyway, that I said, well, I better do something else. Uh, so anyway, it's, a long story short, I went back to school, became a naturopath in Canada. Still wasn't satisfied. Went back to another school in Portland, Oregon. So after 11 years in university, my wife said, "Okay, you're done. No more education. You better start working for a living," per se. So that, it's a journey that I have no begrudging of practicing dentistry. I feel I have an incredible overview of total health, because dentistry and medicine got separated in the 1950s or so, or 1850s, I mean. But now they're starting to realize they should put it back together, because when you look in somebody's mouth, if you see a whole bunch of fillings, what the problems that cause their fillings is also what's causing their many of their chronic health problems.
Yeah, I have to say, one of the most overlooked spots probably for health. I mean, you could look at emotions, you could look at trauma, you could look at toxins, but I have to say, I think it's the procedures within dentistry itself. Would you agree with that? Between root canals, between amalgam fillings, fluoride treatments, that itself is sometimes the missing piece for people's health conditions.
Without any doubt, the oral health plays an incredibly important role. The people don't realize it, but dental cavities is the most common infective disease in the world,
Hmm.
because a cavity is actually due to an infection by bacteria that's in your mouth. And so if you've had a chronic infection, and many people have had a chronic infection, whether it's, because of a whole variety of different types of things per se, and then they just take it for granted. Oh, the cavity is filled. I guess it's okay. But it's not okay because it changes the electrical energy. The teeth are connected to all your body organs by meridians and channels. And I always say that, the one that comes up routinely is when somebody has any type of heart disease. I
Hmm.
always ask them, what happened to your wisdom teeth? They say, well,
Mm.
what's that got to do with anything? I'm 54 and my wisdom teeth were a problem when I was 19. Well, what happened to them? Well, they were impacted and they had a problem and this and that. No, no, I had a cavitation. Oh, what's a cavitation? Anyway, almost routinely, I have found many, many people with heart disease. The problem started when they were 18, 19, when the dentist either improperly or properly perhaps removed the wisdom tooth without removing the periodontal ligament, eventually creating a cavitation, eventually creating a source of chronic infection, which ultimately, because the wisdom teeth are on the heart meridian, ultimately affects the heart, even though they look at the heart and they say, there's nothing wrong with your heart, but yet I have heart problems or high blood pressure or I have a variety of things. So there's these connections that the conventional model doesn't seem to want to look outside the box of, go to a cardiologist and he says there's nothing there. He says, well, you must go to somebody else, go to the neurologist or go to the psychiatrist because, you have a broken heart because you broke up with you got divorced or something. But the reality is the oral health plays a tremendous role in people's chronic health problems. And the dentist will say, well, I don't see anything wrong. Well,
Right.
that's because they're not looking at the energetic connection. And biological medicine focuses greatly on energetic therapies, which I think is how it separates itself from even functional medicine or even naturopathic medicine for that matter. That
Yeah.
we use energetic type therapies, but energy to me is everything. I mean, all our everything about our life and health is really due to energy. Our body is, for all intents and purposes, just a huge electromagnet. And if we don't supply the proper fuel and the proper electrons to our cells, then nothing can ever get better.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up things like functional medicine, naturopathy, which are growing right now. Functional medicine is obviously I would say a trendy kind of way to get out of the conventional realm, go and do lots of lab tests, see it differently, not use as many pharmaceutical interventions. But I say that the general, evolution will have to move into energy at some point. We'll have to
Mhm.
move into emotions and those things, which are also energy fields.